Emotional wounds in love are some of the most challenging to heal, but they are also the most transformative when we allow ourselves to confront them. When we experience hurt, betrayal, or disappointment, it's easy to want to hide from the pain, to push it away and pretend it doesn't exist. But in reality, the more we ignore those wounds, the deeper they get. True healing begins when we choose to face our pain with honesty and compassion. First step in healing emotional wounds is to stop looking for someone to blame. We often want to point fingers when we're hurt, especially when that hurt comes from someone we love. But real healing only starts when we stop playing the blame game and start being honest with ourselves. This is not about excusing bad behavior or accepting something that's wrong. It's about understanding where the pain originated, acknowledging our role in it, and taking responsibility for our own healing. Healing emotional wounds, especially in love, begins with a deep, unflinching honesty, not with blame. It's easy to get caught in the cycle of pointing fingers when we're hurt, convinced that someone else is entirely responsible for our pain. But blaming others is not the path to healing. Instead, it is only a way to avoid the uncomfortable but necessary work of self-reflection, personal growth, and emotional maturity. Healing begins when we choose to be honest with ourselves about what happened, what role we played, and what we need to do to move forward. Honesty is the cornerstone of any meaningful healing process. In relationships, we often seek external reasons for our pain, focusing on the actions of others and how they've wronged us. While their actions may have contributed to the hurt, the moment we blame someone else entirely, we give away our power to heal. When we focus solely on the other person's behavior, we take ourselves out of the equation, and this prevents us from engaging in the self-awareness necessary to understand our own emotions and reactions. It becomes easy to dismiss our role, our feelings, and our responsibility in the situation, but healing requires us to confront all aspects of the situation, including our own actions, thoughts, and responses. It's not about excusing the behavior of others or denying the hurt we've experienced. Healing doesn't mean glossing over the wrongs done to us. It means acknowledging that, as painful as it may be, the path to healing starts with self-honesty. We need to look inward and ask difficult questions. How did I contribute to this situation? Why did I allow certain behaviors to occur? What are my emotional triggers, and how did they influence my reactions? By asking ourselves these tough questions, we open the door to understanding ourselves and our emotional needs more deeply. We become aware of the patterns that repeat in our relationships, and we learn from them rather than staying stuck in cycles of blame and hurt. When we are honest with ourselves, we begin to see that healing is not about waiting for the other person to change or apologize. It's about taking responsibility for our own emotional well-being and finding ways to heal ourselves. This doesn't mean we have to take on the full responsibility for every negative aspect of the relationship, but we do need to take ownership of how we respond to pain. How we heal is ultimately our choice. No one can heal us except ourselves. In choosing honesty, we stop waiting for external validation or for someone else to make things right. We realize that we hold the power to define our own healing journey, and that means being honest about where we are, what hurts, and what needs to change in order to move forward. This honesty also means facing the fear and discomfort that often comes with vulnerability. It's easy to want to protect ourselves from further pain by closing off, by hiding our true emotions, or by pretending everything is fine. But this type of self-deception only prolongs the healing process. When we avoid facing the truth, we remain stuck in a cycle of denial, and the wounds don't heal, they fester. Being honest with ourselves, even when it's painful, is the only way to stop this cycle. We need to give ourselves permission to feel, to grieve, and to acknowledge the depth of our hurt. This honesty is the first step toward finding closure, understanding, and eventually peace. Through this process of self-honesty, we also build emotional resilience. When we choose to face the truth, we stop running from our pain and we stop letting it control us. Instead, we learn how to manage our emotions in healthy, productive ways. We gain the strength to face our fears, to let go of the past, and to rebuild ourselves with a deeper sense of self-awareness. This doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight or that we won't have moments of doubt or sadness. But by choosing honesty, we start to reclaim control over our healing, and that in itself is empowering. In relationships, this honesty can be transformative, not just for ourselves, but for others as well. When we approach difficult situations with honesty, we set an example for others to do the same. We create an environment where trust and understanding can grow. We stop living in the shadows of blame and begin the work of true connection. And in this process, we realize that healing, while deeply personal, is also something that can strengthen the bonds we share with others. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness in our society, something to be avoided at all costs. We're taught to be strong, to keep our emotions in check, and to never let anyone see our true selves. But vulnerability is not a weakness. It is, in fact, the very bridge to true connection. It is only when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable that we open the door to genuine intimacy, understanding, and emotional closeness with others. At its core, vulnerability is about showing up as we truly are, flaws, fears, insecurities, and all. It's the courage to expose parts of ourselves that we often keep hidden, whether that's our deepest emotions, past experiences, or the things that scare us the most. In relationships, this kind of openness allows for an exchange of raw honesty, where both people feel safe enough to express their needs, desires, and fears. Without vulnerability, we're left with superficial connections that lack depth and authenticity. True emotional intimacy can only exist when both people are willing to be open, honest, and transparent, sharing their true selves, without the fear of judgment or rejection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we are also inviting others to do the same. Vulnerability is contagious. It creates a space where others feel safe enough to drop their own defenses and show up authentically. When we express our emotions openly, we signal to others that it's okay to do the same. This is how deep connections are formed, not through perfection, but through shared vulnerability. It's in these moments of mutual openness that trust is built. Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. And vulnerability is the only way to nurture and grow that trust. When we show someone our true selves, we are saying, I trust you with this. I trust you with the parts of me that are sometimes difficult to share. However, vulnerability does not come without its challenges. The fear of being hurt or rejected can make us hesitant to open up. We may worry that by showing our true selves, we will be judged, abandoned, or betrayed. These fears are valid, and they often hold us back from fully connecting with others. But the truth is that avoiding vulnerability only keeps us stuck in isolation. It's through vulnerability that we create the opportunity for healing, for closeness, and for the kind of deep, meaningful relationships that bring us joy and fulfillment. While vulnerability carries the risk of pain, it also carries the potential for profound connection, growth, and love. One of the most beautiful aspects of vulnerability is that it allows us to experience empathy. When we share our struggles, our fears, or our deepest desires with someone else, it opens the door for them to understand us on a deeper level. And when someone else opens up to us in return, we are able to connect with their experiences and emotions. Vulnerability creates a space where empathy can flourish. In those moments, we are no longer two individuals living in isolation. We become two people who truly understand and support one another. The power of empathy in relationships cannot be overstated. It's what turns a surface-level connection into a meaningful bond. Vulnerability also helps us grow. When we are willing to show ourselves as we truly are, we start to shed the layers of armor and defense mechanisms we've built over time. These walls, built to protect us from hurt and rejection, also prevent us from fully experiencing the depth of life and love. So when we choose vulnerability, we are choosing to step outside of our comfort zones, to take risks, and to grow into more authentic versions of ourselves. This process of growth is not always easy, but it is incredibly rewarding. By embracing vulnerability, we not only open ourselves to deeper connection with others, but also to a deeper connection with ourselves. Ultimately, vulnerability is the bridge that allows us to move from isolation to connection, from fear to trust, and from surface-level relationships to deep emotional intimacy. It is the key to building authentic, fulfilling relationships that are grounded in understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we stop hiding behind masks and we start showing up as our true, unguarded selves. And it is in this raw, honest state that the most meaningful connections are made, creating bonds that can withstand the trials and challenges of life. Vulnerability may feel uncomfortable at times, but it is the very thing that allows us to experience the richness of human connection. It is without a doubt the bridge that leads to the deepest and most rewarding relationships we can have. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools we have for healing, yet it is often misunderstood. Many people believe that forgiveness means forgetting what happened, letting go of the pain, or excusing the behavior that hurt them. But forgiveness is not about erasing the past or pretending the wrongdoing didn't matter. In truth, it is about freeing yourself from the grip of anger, resentment, and hurt that the past has on you. It is a choice to release the negative emotions that hold you captive so you can move forward with a sense of peace and emotional clarity. The idea of forgiveness often comes with the misconception that it is something we do for the other person. We may feel that by forgiving, we are letting them off the hook, allowing them to escape the consequences of their actions. This perspective makes it difficult to forgive because it feels like we're being unfair or allowing ourselves to be taken advantage of. But the truth is, forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It's not about them at all. It is about you, your emotional health, and your ability to move forward. Holding on to bitterness, anger, or resentment is like carrying a heavy burden that only weighs you down. Forgiveness is the process of lightening that load and choosing to let go of the pain that keeps you stuck. Forgiveness is an act of self-liberation. When we hold on to grudges, we are often unknowingly tethered to the person who hurt us. We remain emotionally connected to them, giving them power over our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Every time we think about the hurt, every time we revisit the pain, we are allowing them to continue to affect our lives. Forgiveness, in contrast, is about taking back that power. It is saying, I will no longer let this person or this event control my emotional state. It's about reclaiming your peace and your power to shape your own emotional world independent of the wrongs that have been done to you. This doesn't mean that you forget the hurt. Forgiveness does not erase the memories or the scars left by betrayal, disappointment, or pain. But it does mean that you no longer let those memories define your present. When you forgive, you are choosing to release the grip that the hurt has on your life. It's not about excusing the wrongdoing or pretending it didn't matter. It's about freeing yourself from the past so that you can live in the present without carrying the weight of old wounds. Forgiveness also means accepting that the person who hurt you may never apologize or even understand the depth of their actions. Many times we hold on to anger because we're waiting for an apology or an acknowledgement of our pain. But waiting for someone to apologize often keeps us locked in a cycle of hurt and resentment. Forgiveness allows us to let go of that need for validation. It's a decision to take back our emotional well-being regardless of the other person's action. When we forgive, we stop waiting for something outside of ourselves to heal us. We take responsibility for our own healing and choose to move on, even if the other person doesn't. Another key aspect of forgiveness is the realization that it is a process, not a one-time event. Many people think that forgiveness is something you either do or you don't, that it's a simple all-or-nothing decision. In reality, forgiveness is a journey, a series of small, intentional steps. You may forgive someone in one moment and then find yourself revisiting the pain in another. This doesn't mean you haven't truly forgiven. It means that healing is ongoing. Each time you feel the pain resurface, you have the opportunity to reaffirm your decision to forgive, to let go, and to release the grip of that hurt. Over time, the intensity of the pain fades, and the emotional weight becomes lighter. Forgiveness is not an instantaneous process. It is a gradual release of the hold that the past has on your heart. At its core, forgiveness is about taking back control of your emotional life. It is about choosing peace over anger, freedom over resentment, and healing over pain. It is not about excusing the actions of others, but about freeing yourself from the emotional bondage of those actions. When you forgive, you release the grip of the past and allow yourself the space to move forward. Forgiveness is not for the person who wronged you, it is for you. It is a gift you give yourself, a gift of peace, emotional clarity, and freedom. And in this process of letting go, you free yourself to embrace a future full of possibility without being chained to the hurt that once held you captive. Time is often said to heal all wounds, a comforting idea that suggests that as days, weeks, or years pass, pain will gradually fade and life will return to normal. However, the reality is far more complex. While time is a necessary element in the healing process, it is not the passage of time alone that brings relief. It is the intention behind how we use that time that truly determines whether or not we heal. Without conscious effort and purposeful action, time can simply prolong suffering or bury unresolved emotions deep within us. It is only when we actively engage with our wounds, reflect on them, and make the choice to heal that time begins to play its role in our recovery. Healing requires intention. If we simply wait for time to pass, we run the risk of letting the pain fester beneath the surface. Your emotions can grow stronger, turning into bitterness, resentment, or anxiety. These feelings often lie dormant for a while, but they don't disappear just because time has passed. In fact, the longer we ignore our emotional wounds, the more deeply they become embedded in our subconscious, affecting our behaviors, decisions, and relationships. Time alone does not dissolve the hurt, it simply gives it space to grow unchecked, creating new complications in our lives. Key to healing is the intention to face the pain head on. We need to intentionally choose to look at what has hurt us, to feel the emotions that arise, and to process them in a healthy way. This could mean talking about the pain with someone we trust, seeking therapy, or even journaling to express our feelings. The goal is not to ignore or suppress the hurt, but to confront it in a way that allows us to release its grip on our lives. Intentional healing means taking responsibility for our emotional well-being and actively engaging with our pain rather than letting it dictate our lives from the shadows. One of the most powerful intentions we can set is to forgive, not for the sake of others, but for our own peace of mind. Holding on to anger, resentment, or a desire for revenge only keeps us trapped in the past. These emotions don't just hurt the person who wronged us, they continue to damage us long after the event has passed. Forgiveness is a conscious decision to let go of the negative emotions that bind us to the past and choose peace instead. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing bad behavior, it's about freeing ourselves from the emotional burden that comes with holding on to hurt. This is where intention comes into play. Forgiveness is not a passive act. It's an active choice to release the emotional weight and move forward. Another essential element of intentional healing is self-compassion. Healing is not a linear process, and it's easy to become frustrated or discouraged when we don't feel better right away. But healing takes time, and during that time, we need to show ourselves the same kindness and understanding we would offer to a friend. Rather than beating ourselves up for not getting over it, we need to acknowledge that our pain is valid and that it's okay to feel what we're feeling. By intentionally practicing self-compassion, we create an environment where healing can take place. We stop pushing ourselves to move on before we're ready, and we allow ourselves the grace to heal at our own pace. Time can be a friend to healing, but only when it is paired with intentionality. We cannot simply wait for the passing days to make us feel better. We must actively engage with the healing process. This may involve examining the causes of our pain, learning from the experience, and gradually making peace with what has happened. It also involves setting healthy boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and seeking support when necessary. Time is a backdrop to this process, but it is intention that drives the healing forward. Healing also requires patience. When we intentionally choose to heal, we accept that the process takes time. It's easy to become impatient when progress feels slow, but we must trust that every step, no matter how small, is a step toward emotional well-being. Just as physical wounds take time to heal, so do emotional wounds. Time alone doesn't heal, but when paired with intentional action, it becomes the framework that allows healing to unfold. Ultimately, time doesn't heal wounds, intention does. It's the conscious decision to face our pain, to process it, to learn from it, and to let it go that allows us to heal. Time may provide the space for this process, but it's the intention, the active work of engaging with our emotions and healing that makes all the difference. By setting an intention to heal, we can use the time we have to release the past, reclaim our peace, and move forward with strength and clarity. Loving yourself is often seen as a prerequisite for healthy relationships, but it is much more than just an abstract concept. It's a foundation upon which everything else in life is built. Without self-love, any attempt to love others becomes imbalanced and incomplete. Loving yourself isn't about being narcissistic or selfish. It's about recognizing your own worth, accepting who you are, and prioritizing your emotional and mental well-being. When we truly love ourselves, we are able to offer love to others in a way that is genuine, compassionate, and unconditionally giving. However, when we fail to love ourselves, our capacity to love others diminishes and can even become distorted. Self-love is an act of self-respect. To love yourself is to acknowledge that you deserve the same kindness, patience, and compassion that you so freely offer others. In many ways, it's a matter of treating yourself the way you would treat your best friend. It means embracing your flaws, understanding your limitations, and celebrating your strengths. It is about being at peace with who you are, rather than constantly striving to meet external expectations or seeking validation from others. When we love ourselves, we stop relying on others to complete us or fill the gaps in our sense of self-worth. We become whole in our own right, and from that place of inner wholeness, we can extend our love outward. This concept of self-love is crucial because without it, we often project our insecurities and unmet emotional needs onto the people around us. If we don't feel worthy of love, we may find ourselves seeking it in unhealthy ways, clinging to relationships for validation, or compromising our boundaries in order to be accepted. This can lead to codependency, emotional manipulation, and a sense of emptiness that never seems to be filled. On the other hand, when we love ourselves, we are able to enter relationships as whole individuals, not as people looking to be rescued or fixed. We enter relationships with the ability to give love freely without expectation or a hidden agenda. Furthermore, loving yourself teaches you how to set healthy boundaries. When we truly value ourselves, we are more likely to protect our time, our energy, and our emotional well-being. We learn to say no when necessary without feeling guilty or selfish. Healthy boundaries create a sense of safety in relationships, where both individuals feel respected, valued, and supported. Without self-love, we may allow others to overstep our boundaries, leading to resentment, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. However, when we prioritize ourselves, we create space for healthier and more fulfilling connections. Loving yourself also means being kind to yourself during times of struggle. It's easy to extend love and compassion to others when they're going through tough times, but it can be difficult to do the same for ourselves. Often we are our own harshest critics, quick to judge or punish ourselves for mistakes, flaws, or failures. But when we cultivate self-love, we learn to embrace our imperfections with empathy and understanding. We allow ourselves to make mistakes without feeling as though we are unworthy of love or respect. This self-compassion enables us to bounce back from setbacks, learn from them, and grow into better versions of ourselves. The act of loving yourself also impacts how you communicate with others. When you feel good about who you are more likely to communicate with confidence, clarity, and respect. You are less likely to get defensive, insecure, or reactive in your interactions. Instead, you can engage in honest, open communication, where both people's needs are heard and understood. Healthy communication is a cornerstone of any strong relationship, and self-love makes it possible to engage in this kind of dialogue without fear or manipulation. Another aspect of loving yourself is the ability to forgive yourself. We all make mistakes, and it's easy to carry guilt, shame, or regret from past actions. But loving yourself means understanding that these mistakes don't define your worth. It means giving yourself permission to learn from the past without being held hostage by it. Self-forgiveness frees us from the chains of self-blame and allows us to approach others with the same understanding and compassion that we have learned to give ourselves. And without this capacity for self-forgiveness, we may project our own feelings of unworthiness onto others, or avoid deep connections altogether for fear of being judged. In relationships, the love we have for ourselves is reflected in the love we give to others. When we love ourselves fully, we are able to love others in a healthy, balanced way. We can support them, encourage them, and be present with them without the underlying need for validation or approval. We can give love freely because we are already whole, and we are able to receive love without feeling that we are undeserving. This creates a positive cycle of love and support where both individuals can thrive and grow together. Ultimately, loving yourself is not a destination, but a continuous journey. It is about making the conscious choice every day to prioritize your well-being, to treat yourself with kindness and respect, and to recognize your inherent worth. When you love yourself, you open the door to deeper, more meaningful relationships with others. You create a foundation of emotional health and self-respect that enhances every aspect of your life. Because the most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. Because when you love yourself fully, you unlock the ability to love others in a way that is truly transformative. Healing is often depicted as a destination, a place where you finally get over the past and move on, where the pain no longer lingers and you can fully embrace life without the weight of emotional scars. But in reality, healing is a journey, not a finish line. It's an ongoing process, a series of steps that unfold over time. Just like physical wounds that take time to mend, emotional wounds require care, attention, and gradual recovery. The idea of reaching a definitive endpoint can create unrealistic expectations and lead to frustration when the healing process doesn't unfold in the neat and tidy way we anticipate. Understanding healing as a journey allows for greater compassion toward ourselves and others as we navigate the path of recovery. Healing in its truest sense is not about forgetting the past or erasing the hurt. It's about transforming how we relate to the pain, learning from it, and integrating it into our lives in a way that doesn't hold us back. There will likely always be moments when the past resurfaces, when old wounds feel fresh again, or when triggers send us into emotional turmoil. These moments are not signs that healing hasn't happened. They are part of the ongoing process. They are reminders that healing is not linear, and that it's okay to revisit old pain as long as we are taking steps forward. The journey of healing is marked by progress, setbacks, growth, and acceptance, not by an arrival at a perfect state of emotional peace. One of the key elements of healing is understanding that it's not something that can be rushed or forced. Healing cannot be dictated by external timelines, societal pressures, or the expectations of others. Each person's journey is unique, shaped by their own experiences, coping mechanisms, and resilience. What works for one person may not work for another, and that's okay. The pace of healing varies, and it's important to honor where we are in the process without judging ourselves for not being further along. Sometimes healing means allowing ourselves to feel the pain without trying to escape it, to sit with the discomfort, and to recognize that it is part of our evolution. This patience and self-compassion are essential to the healing process. The journey of healing also involves letting go of the notion of perfection. We may envision a perfect version of ourselves once the healing is complete, free of hurt, bitterness, and pain, but this ideal can set us up for disappointment. Healing doesn't mean becoming perfect or flawless, it means becoming whole. It's about embracing our imperfections, accepting that we are human, and acknowledging that we have the strength to carry our pain without allowing it to define us. Healing is about becoming more resilient, more self-aware, and more compassionate. It's about learning to live with the scars rather than trying to erase them. These scars are a testament to our survival, our growth, and our ability to keep moving forward. Along the healing journey, there may be periods of emotional turbulence, moments when the pain feels overwhelming, or when the weight of past experiences becomes hard to carry. During these times, it's important to remember that healing doesn't mean you will never feel the pain again. It means learning how to navigate it. It means developing the tools to process and manage emotions in a healthy way. It might mean seeking support from others, whether through therapy, relationships, or self-care practices. Healing can be difficult, and asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but a crucial part of the process. It's also important to recognize that healing requires ongoing effort. It's not a one-time fix, but a continuous commitment to our emotional and mental well-being. This effort can come in many forms, from taking time for ourselves to practicing mindfulness, journaling, or engaging in creative outlets. The healing journey often involves forgiveness of others and of ourselves. Forgiveness is not about excusing the actions of those who have hurt us or letting them off the hook. It's about releasing the hold that the past has on us. Holding on to anger, resentment, or guilt can trap us in the past, preventing us from moving forward. Forgiveness is a way of freeing ourselves, allowing us to heal without being held back by the negative emotions that accompany unresolved pain. However, forgiveness is also part of the journey. It's not always instantaneous, and it often takes time. The willingness to forgive is a gradual process, one that unfolds as we learn more about ourselves, our boundaries, and our capacity for compassion. Ultimately, healing is not a destination, but a continuous path that unfolds with each step. It's about embracing the journey with openness and self-compassion, acknowledging that there will be difficult moments, but also recognizing the growth that comes from those moments. Healing is not about becoming perfect or reaching an endpoint where the pain disappears entirely. It's about learning to live fully with the experiences that have shaped us, accepting the messiness of our emotions, and finding peace in the process. Every day is an opportunity to move closer to wholeness, not because we're supposed to be done healing, but because healing is an ongoing journey that teaches us to live more authentically, with more love for ourselves and others,